here we are 8 years later. We're an 8-year overnight success. Over 200,000 people using the website and the app to get this
Wow.
service done, doing $20 million a year in revenue.
Welcome to Seven Figure Entrepreneur Podcast, the #1 podcast bringing you behind the scenes with real online earners. No fake gurus here. And today we have my wonderful co-host, Tyler Devin. We also have the wonderful Bryan Clayton. What is going on, man? Happy to have you here. Super excited to hear about your story.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. Great to be here.
Yeah, appreciate you making the time, man.
So this one's a little bit of a different one. It is online related. It's kind of more in the app front, or the app or slash services. So basically, Bryan described it to me as he is the Uber of lawn mowing.
That's
right.
Is that
correct?
The Uber of lawn mowing. So if you have a yard and you need to get your grass cut, rather than calling around on Craigslist or Yelp or Facebook or asking friends or family, you can just download our app and you'll get quotes from service providers in your neighborhood. You can read reviews, figure out which one you want to work with, hire them right on the app. They come out and mow. And if it goes well, you can just hire them for the rest of the season right on our app. Just set it, forget it. Just happens like magic, like Uber.
Dude, that's so cool.
I love that.
That is really cool. And I'm excited to kind of like hear how you got to this point and everything. So do you want to talk about like how you got to this point? Like what did you before, and then what made you decide like, hey, you know what, I'm going to dive all in and create an app?
Yeah. So rewind 3 years ago, my dad drugged me into entrepreneurship, kicking and screaming on a hot summer day. He came into my room, interrupted me playing Super Mario Kart and said, "Hey, get off your ass. You got a job to do. You're going to go mow the neighbor's yard." And he made me go cut the neighbor's grass, and I got paid like $20, and I was hooked. So I just started mowing yards for as many people in the neighborhood that would pay me to do it, and I stuck with a little lawn mowing business all through high school, all through college, and when I graduated college, I had to make a decision. Hey, what am I going to do? Am I going to go into the job market or stick with this landscaping company? And I thought, well, let's just see where I can go with the landscaping business. Didn't really want to be a lawn guy, but I made a little business plan, and over a 15-year period of time, grew that into one of the largest landscaping companies in the state of Tennessee where I live. Got it over 150 employees, over $10 million a year in annual revenue. And in 2013, the business was acquired by one of the largest landscaping companies in the United States. So growing that business, just me and a push mower to me and 100 some odd people, 80 trucks going out every day. I learned a lot about how the business works and how to get something going from scratch. And so when I sold it, I retired. I took like 6 months off, and it was like a growing period for me. I learned about myself that I'm wired to love business. I'm wired to love to be in the game, that my business is the thing that gives me purpose in life. And that was missing. It was gone. And so I thought, okay, it's time to get back in the arena. It's time to get back in the game. I need to start the next thing. And so the idea for GreenPal was really straightforward for me. It was one that I kind of had in the back of my head, that it was just really inefficient the way this whole business operates, and that an app needed to exist to make it easier. And so I recruited two co-founders. We went to work on the idea, and here we are 8 years later. We're an 8-year overnight success. Over 200,000 people using the website and the app to get this service done, doing $20 million a year in revenue.
Dude, good for you.
Dude, that's amazing.
Man, riches are in the niches. Yeah. Unreal, bro. Good for you.
I thank you. I appreciate it. I think there's correlation between the least glamorous, least sexy your idea, the greater your chances of success. Because it's not like a whole lot of people aren't looking at it. And
totally.
And so while this has been a tough slog for us getting this platform going, we now have it coming. We now have it profitable, and we don't have a whole lot of big, well-funded competition attacking the same idea, because it's just not glamorous. It's not sexy.
Yeah. Dude, very cool.
True. Man,
are you so where, like, the users for your app, is it just Nashville? I imagine 200,000 users. It's grown outside of that.
Yeah. So we are bootstrapped, self-funded. And so the only thing we had to our advantage in the early days was focus. We just had to focus all of our intensity on one service, one use case, and in one geo. We stayed in Nashville, Tennessee for almost 4 years, just trying to figure out how to make the flows reliable, how to make the service actually happen on time and a quality level and at a good price. And so we spent a long time just in Nashville where we live, and then slowly began to expand into other markets as we started to figure it out. And then once we started to figure it out, we pumped every dime back into the business and expanded nationwide in the United States. We're in every major city in the United States, and now we're rolling out into the smaller towns and nooks and crannies throughout the United States, sub 50,000 population. And we'll be
Interesting.
probably doing that for the next year or two, and then we'll be in Canada and UK and Australia.
Very cool, man.
Dude, that's so cool. We don't have a lot of app like owners on here or creators.
No,
And
not
that's
at
like,
all.
no, so this is like exciting, very exciting, and so cool, man. Like I just it makes so much sense. And as you're saying, I'm just like, why doesn't it exist for like house cleaning and for everything else? And maybe it does. I'm just unaware.
So yeah, a couple points there. So yes, we are an app. We're an app driven business. It's kind of like the remote control for your lawn, and service providers use the hell
Yeah.
out of our app to run their business. But 80% of the people that find out about GreenPal, that onboard themselves and get quotes and hire somebody, happens on the web, because the apps are terrible for discovery. Like if you need a
Yeah.
lawn mowing service, or you need like you said, a house cleaning service, you don't go to the app store and type in lawn mowing service nearby me in
Yeah.
Vancouver. You just don't. You go to the web, and so that's where people discover GreenPal. And so we've had to get really good at organic SEO and and search marketing to be able to be a part of that conversation when somebody's looking for a lawn mowing service. Okay, we're a part of the options that they can choose from on the search engine results page.
Dude, that makes total sense because you're right. No user is going to go to the Apple store and put like cut my grass. Like that shit is not going to
Yeah.
happen.
No. So
But
the
that's
web is acquisition, the app is retention. So you acquire them on the web, and then after they have a delightful experience, you get them onto the app as soon as possible, because once you're in the backpack, once you're in the pocket, once you're in the purse, it's easy to stay there when you're on that phone's home screen. So
no doubt.
but it's not that easy to onboard somebody from scratch from the app store.
So let's talk about that for a second. So someone, finds you. Are you guys like paying for any ads at all, or are you just like solely focused on organic traffic?
So when you're bootstrapping and revenue is the only source of financing, you kind of have to like bet on one channel is what I've
Yeah.
noticed. You have to be really good at one thing. Along the way in 8 years, we've experimented with every channel. I mean, everything, you name it: Facebook, Twitter ads, Pinterest ads, billboard, print, TV, radio, everything. And we have experimented on making the unit economics work on every paid channel we can. And while we can make it work, our CPA is still lower by reinvesting that money in the search. So it's like we have bet the
Sorry,
company
when you
on
say search, do you mean like Google search or do you mean organic?
organic search.
So
So not
SEO.
we're
Gotcha.
not even paid ads on AdWords or
Wow.
anything like that. So it's kind of like this, you got an extra 10 grand this month. Are you going to blow it out on Facebook ads or Google ads, or are you going to like hire that rock star content creator that is expensive as hell, but if you can create that content on your property, you're going to earn more links and earn more traffic and get more customers that way. And we just have not been able to beat the ROI on organic search in any other channel. And
Interesting.
so we just continue to lean into it. Now the economics are not always there's not always a linear like way you can kind of connect
Yeah.
the dots that you can on performance marketing. But we kind of have it figured out as far as a rule of thumb on, okay, we know if we invest 10 more K or 50 more K and what we're doing on organic search, that 6 months from now we'll be in better shape than we are today, versus just blowing that out on Instagram stories.
Mhm.
We might pick up another 1,000 customers, but I know we can get 5,000 if we can generate more traffic from organic search.
So, man,
And
I'm kind of curious in that because one thing that we've talked about is just building up like an SEO channel as a whole. But it just seems like one of those things, like you said, you can't really necessarily measure it. If someone said, hey, go spend 20 grand on SEO, like the best I could think of would be to like, maybe like hire some more content writers or something like that. How do you actually invest into SEO?
Yeah, so if you're crazy enough to make organic SEO like your channel, and it's
Hmm.
kind of a bet the company decision. So it's not like GreenPal sprinkle SEO on top of it. It's GreenPal and SEO is in the DNA of the company from the ground up day one. And so it means that, like, okay, if you've got engineers and people on your team writing code and building apps and building websites, it also means that you have like an entire other team that's doing nothing but SEO, and that's designers, content creators, engineers that are working on tech SEO, project manager that understands, like the SEO lead that understands
Hmm.
how it works and what needs to be done. And it's all of these things kind of coming together that over time enable you to play in that game. And so for us, it's one that we just bet the company on in the first year. We knew that okay, we've experimented in all these other channels, and yeah, we're getting traction, but we still believe if we just put all of that on organic search, that a year from today we'll start to see some results. And that's literally how it unfolds. If,
Wow.
like you said, if you had 20 grand to put on organic search, you could put it to work, so long as you knew what you were doing, or you paid a consultant to help you do it. But you're not going to see a whole lot for 6 months, a year, maybe even 2 years. And so
Hmm.
it's very much the long game. And it's hard to get investors to fund that because there's not that immediate ROI. And
Gotcha.
Yeah.
so it's one that kind of lends itself to bootstrapping, so long as you're ambitious enough to grind it out, because it is a slog.
Yeah.
But it can lend durability to your business and can lend sustainability to your business, because it is a long term, long play, forward thinking strategy on how to build your business.
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah.
a
Interesting.
cap with the SEO? Like, so let's say like this month you're like, I'm going to invest 100 grand into SEO. Can you just keep increasing how much you invest into it, and will you see those results in 6 months, or is there a cap to it?
So long as you know what you're doing. So like, if you don't know what you're doing, you can piss away 100K really easily. But if you do, and let's say you've hired somebody that has been around the block and knows how to manage a big team of content creators, outreachers, PR, digital PRs, tech SEO engineers, like literally engineers that all they do is tech SEO. If you can
Wow.
put that team together, sky's the limit. I mean, there's huge companies that are built on the back of SEO, from Zillow to Thumbtack to Yelp,
Yeah,
and so and their one channel was organic search. And so
Yeah.
if you know
gotcha.
what you're doing, and you can execute at that level, yeah, you can put as much money to work as you want. But
Interesting.
it boils back to experience, and it boils back to uh, to having made mistakes, and knowing how to put that capital to work. One tactical thing I'll point out is when you're, let's say you're just getting started, and you're working with an SEO agency or an SEO lead. It's, in my experience, it's better to hire the best for 2 hours a month than somebody who sucks for 40 hours a week. So
Mm.
so you're much, and that really almost goes to anything, as in terms of building your business. Like, it doesn't matter if it's like a content creator, a CFO, a chief of legal, an HR person, whatever. It's better to hire like the best for an hour a week, that might be $300 an hour, than somebody who just got started in their career for 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
I think that's
Interesting.
smart. So
Dude,
wild.
I know.
Because
I
we're
haven't
we're
like
we're big paid guys. Like we live for paid. Um,
hmm
And paid's
but
awesome, because
yeah,
paid's predictable. It's measurable. And if you can get it to work, step
yeah,
on the gas.
yeah.
And you look at like wish.com, and you name it, like that's booking.com. Like, those guys are
yeah.
just, that's all they do is paid, and they've built huge businesses on the back of paid. So there's no one way to, like, to
Hmm.
acquire users and scale.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
think I
Yeah.
think the principle here is, like, if you're bootstrapped, you got to pick one, and you got to be
Hmm.
really good at one.
Yeah.
You're not gonna, like, if you try to be good at three, you're gonna suck at all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
Interesting, man. I love it. You know what's funny? No one has talked about SEO that I can remember on this podcast yet.
No, not at this level. Like maybe on a smaller level,
No.
but like basing your entire business on it is definitely next level. And I love it. This shit's cool.
I've even
It's
been interviewing like SEO companies recently, and like ones that are like ranking for like payday loan and stuff for other guys I know. And it's like one of those things, you ask them, you're like, okay, cool. Like, when do you see results? And they just kind of shrug. They're like, we don't know.
Yeah,
Like, could be 6 months, could be 18 months. You put a little ROI chart on there. That's the most depressing shit you've ever seen because you
right.
don't know.
You don't know.
Like, you know what I mean? Depending on your demographic, there's so many factors. But like at the end of the day, I feel like if anything too, it adds value to your company, being able to like reach customers. Because I know those customers are just so far more engaged than like maybe a Facebook lead or an Instagram lead's
Yeah, the
going to be.
quality's probably through the roof.
Yeah, the traffic from organic search converts exponentially higher than any other channel because there's intent there, and people are kind of
Yeah,
trained to know the ads at the top are kind of BS, and if they can
yeah,
find
Mhm.
you in the organic results, that they're more inclined to trust it. At least that's the way I
Yeah.
roll.
yeah.
But
I would agree with you, man.
So
you know, like even if you're working with an external agency, you still have to like delegate it from a standpoint of some sort of like understanding, and not
Yeah,
like, hey, you guys handle this, otherwise you're going to get your feelings hurt really quick
mhm.
when you put 20K 50K 100K down, and it's like, hey, we're still not making any more money. What the hell? I could have bought a bunch of Facebook ads and done
Yeah.
something with that
yeah.
capital. So you kind of have to like, it has to be part of the DNA of the company. Somebody on the founding team has to understand it to some sort of basic degree before you can even begin to delegate it.
Interesting.
And do you guys, I know we touched on paid a little bit, but do you guys not do any retargeting at all?
On the supply side, just a little bit.
Cool.
And so in the early days, you know, we've got 10,000 plus lawn care services that use our platform to operate their business. And in the early days, it was very much like dial for dollars. It was, we're
Mm,
calling every single service provider off of Yelp, Craigslist, Facebook, Thumbtack, you name it, and just like pitching them on the idea of becoming a service provider on GreenPal. And then as
Mhm.
time went on, like until our thumbs bled from texting so many people, we were like, damn, we got to figure out a way to like self-serve and onboard these people. And then we started doing a little bit of retargeting, a little bit of Facebook ads. I'm talking like 2K a month, never
Yeah.
oh
more than
wow,
that. And that got us more than we needed. And so we're
wow.
very much like demand side constrained in
Yeah.
terms of homeowners, getting them onto the platform. And for us, dollar for dollar in terms of effort and time and money put in versus reward,
Mhm.
organic search is just the best that we've found.
I
So
guess that's an
one,
interesting thing because
oh,
you're
go ahead.
trying to get both you're trying to get the service provider and the customer. So it's like it's almost like you're double advertising for two different leads, which is
Yes.
interesting to think about because I'm so like focused on that just that one side of thing. It's cool.
Yes, yes. You know, life is much easier if you just have like a SaaS product and you're marketing it to one
Hmm.
side. Like if we sold like the best set of tools that lawn mowing services use to run their business and charge them $50 a month, that's a much more straightforward game plan to execute than a multi-sided marketplace where you're attracting suppliers and consumers, getting them on the platform at the same time, and then like getting that critical mass and sparking that connection between the two of them on a local level. It makes it challenging, and that's why these marketplaces are hard to get going. They take a long time, but once you get them rolling, there's real durability to them.
Interesting. What can you kind of walk us through the pitch for the service provider side? Because I imagine it's like, hey, do you want more customers? It kind of goes down that road, but I'm sure you guys have your own spin on that.
Yeah, you would think it'd be a total absolute no-brainer, but it still requires some salesmanship because these small business owners have just been beaten up for the last 10 years from everybody from Home Advisor to Yelp to Google Home Services to
Yellow
anybody
pages.
with like a boiler room of like dial for dollars people. Like they're trying to sell them on stuff, and a lot of the stuff is just not good fits for their business. And so like
Yeah.
they've already pissed away $500 on Home Advisor, and they're like pissed off, or Angie's List, and they don't want to talk to anybody about this crap. And so we've
Yeah.
had to really like cut through that noise and like just pitch them on a no-brainer, like free to use, no fees. You only pay a small percentage of the transaction for the work that you get through the platform. And in the early days, it was very much like hand-to-hand combat. Like I knew personally the first several hundred service providers that used the app to run their business. And the way we kind of got over that cold start was I would pitch them on like free consulting and free coaching on how to grow their lawn mowing
Mm,
business, because I
Smart.
know this business
yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
darn well. And so it was like the value proposition was like, hey, you know, I just built this business, I sold it. odds are you've probably know my name if you're in Nashville, Tennessee, in the lawn mowing business. You know, I was kind of a little bit of a known commodity, so there, that helped too.
Yeah.
And then it was like, hey, but
Brand
I'm building this
recognition.
other thing now. It sucks right now, but here's the features that we want to like build in over the next 2 years. Would you use it? And then along the way, I will give you 2 hours a month of free coaching. And that was the way like we created lock in for like the first 50 service providers. And so these guys and gals were on the platform ready to be hired from homeowners that needed them. And so like that was the way we were kind of able to like hand crank the cold start chicken and egg problem in the first market where we
Interesting.
operated.
Very
That's super
cool.
cool.
And then flipping to the other side of things, one thing I think that's probably amazing about the business, you probably have solid retention.
You know, as things go up and down with Google, because if you're gonna like play in the organic search game, you've got to be okay with volatility, because Google's always
Hmm.
changing the algorithm. They're always changing what they rank and what they don't rank and what they promote and demote. And along the way, over the last 8 years, we've had major dips, like where an algorithm change will roll out and we'll lose 30% of our traffic.
Wow.
And it sucks. You got to like reverse engineer. Okay, what's going on? Like, what do we need to improve on? But through those ups and downs, our revenue stays stable. And in the early years where we were really
That's
measuring this
so
stuff, like,
nice.
man, that's awesome. Like, really, what's going on? And we begin to understand that we've got really strong retention on both sides of the transaction. Once we get them onboarded, once they experience it this way, they
Hmm.
really don't want to go back to doing it the old way.
Yeah, I could see that. Would you mind? I know this might be an intimate number. Would you mind like the average, the amount of times that the average user kind of uses your service,
Yeah.
or how many months?
So the average lifespan is 18 months for people that use the service. So we were able to convert them 2 seasons, and in
Yeah.
most cases they either move or they end up doing them themselves. What we've seen a lot of through COVID is kids are at home, so a lot of kids are going
Oh
back to
yeah.
Oh,
cut their grass. But
free
yeah,
workforce.
yeah, and so what we focus on is extending that out, but also expanding that revenue as they stick with the platform in terms of facilitating other services like
Nice.
shrub removal, mulching, seed, leaf removal, snow plowing, things like that. After that relationship is established between the homeowner and their service provider, we help try to expand the revenue between them as time goes on.
Very cool.
And that is that all through your app too? So you still make a transaction on that as
That's
well?
right. Yeah, that's
Okay,
right.
cool.
But one key distinction is we don't throw all of that on the front end. Like when you come to GreenPal does one thing. It's the easiest way to get your grass cut. It's the easiest way to get hooked up with a
Yeah.
great yard
Smart.
maintenance service.
Hmm.
We don't put all this stuff on the front door because it really, like, if you're self-funded and like if you're getting a new invention from scratch to take hold, like it has to be like so easy, like Homer Simpson drunk can use it.
Yeah.
Like you can't like have all of this option, all these options. Like you
Yeah.
can't have all of these things to sidetrack the user. They need to like have one path to go on.
No
And then
doubt.
like the one of the principles of product design that we studied like really early on is what they call the path of the red route. And it stems back from in UK and London. Like there's these streets that run through the city of London, and they have like a red line on through them, and that's the line that the bus goes on, and that bus can only go down that one red route. And so the
Hmm.
principle of the law of the red route is, you want to design your product to where people can only go down one path. They really can't
Mm.
diverge down these different paths or streets or roads. They can only go down one path to accomplish one thing, and that can help you, increase your chances of success if you're starting a brand new product.
Interesting.
Yeah. Damn.
I love
This
it,
is
man.
just
What a cool freaking business, man.
I know, I love it. It's just like it makes you so does it make you want to
He's gonna have a
expand and just
vacuum app next month.
yeah, you know what like I feel like once you have like the framework of all this in place, like doesn't it just want to make you get into like every other market? Because you
Yeah,
already have everything's there.
there is adjacency there, but we still have so much further to go in this one
Yeah,
service. Like we're
fair.
doing 20 something $1 million a year in revenue. The industry is $80 billion,
Oh wow.
and so it's like we're not even scratching the surface on this one thing. And maybe one day, we'll layer in other things like home cleaning or
Yeah.
or general home maintenance. But I mean, we have just so much further to go. Like if you took like us, and then whatever other online competitors, you name it, like Home Advisor, Angie's List, and like added us all up and then times it by 10, it still wouldn't even be like 2% of the market. And so
Wow.
the majority of like this stuff is still happening offline. It's still happening on pen and pad. Like it's still happening like old school. And so that's
Yeah.
our competition. That's really what we're chewing through.
My
Interesting.
stepdad has or had a landscaping company, and he would just like have to wake up super early in the morning, go out to the job site, give him a quote, come back, do the whole process. This is just such a better option.
Yeah, that's really who we're solving for, because that's my
Yeah.
background. I have the scars on my hands from
Yeah.
sharpening those lawnmower blades and doing that stuff the hard way. And that's really why we do what we do. Like giving that hardworking service provider just a platform to plug in where all they got to do is just do a good job mowing yards for their clients. And then
Hmm.
everything from like getting new customers, getting paid on time, getting their route done, marketing automation, all of these things
Yeah.
are just happen for them to where they don't have to do all of that stuff, and they can, spend time with their family on nights and weekends and not doing
Yeah.
bookkeeping.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
I
Very
appreciate it.
smart.
Yeah, honestly,
Yeah.
very
So
cool.
good.
So what's your future plans? Like, I know like tech's hot right now. Are you ever thinking about going public, or are you just going to continue the road you're on, or what's going on in your head?
We just now are at a point where it's fun. So, maybe the last 2 years have been fun. The first 5 or 6 years were really, really tough getting this thing going because it was just like
Hmm.
pulling teeth, pushing a rock up a hill, whatever metaphor you want to use. Like it was a slog, man. Like it was really hard. And so now, we're profitable. We got a good team. There's 24 people that work for the company. Really, really, really smart engineers and
Nice
growth
and lean, man. I
people.
like that.
Yeah, so it's like now it's just now getting to be fun to where we're making money and we're putting money back to work. And so I never say never, but we got at least another 5, 10 years of working on this thing and getting it to where it's in like the default list of things that you just do. It's like on the
Yeah,
list of Uber and Airbnb and Instacart and DoorDash for just how you just get this thing done. Like that's
no
that's the
doubt.
vision. That's where we want to be.
Dude, I love how
Nice.
you self-funded too. Like those other companies, they've all had funding from like so many investors and stuff like this. So you guys, between the three of you, you guys still retain all the ownership?
That's right. Yeah, yeah. Our
Dude, I
cap
love
table has
that.
got three names on it, and we love that too. And so and that's really kind of how we wanted to do it from the outset. We didn't really want to have a whole lot of people, you know, in the mix and telling us how to build this thing. And as it turns out, like 14, 15, 16, those were years that were really hot for the Uber for X startup. And so
Hmm.
everything from Uber for home cleaning, Uber for massages, Uber for laundry service, all these like ideas got funded with huge amounts of venture capital, and 99% of them, crashed and burned.
Totally.
And a lot of that was because the founding team was good at tech, but they had never really cleaned a house themselves, or
Yeah.
they had never ran a laundry service. They didn't understand like the dynamics of those businesses. So that was one piece of it. But the other piece of it too was the implications of venture capital is once you take that round, you gotta grow by 5x, 10x, and it's like get
Hmm.
rich or die trying. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's I think what killed a lot of those businesses. Had they not raised money or raised a lot less, they may still be around.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You know, it's funny.
So
Scott Rerick talks about that too, man. He's like, I hate venture capitalists.
It's not like one or the other. I think it's if you like 3 years ago when all these
Hmm.
scooter companies started like popping up, if you wanted to
oh
start a
yeah.
scooter company, you had to raise huge amounts of venture capital. There was no way to bootstrap a scooter company. And
Yeah.
so like you had to. And like same for food delivery and all these other businesses that was huge loss makers. But if you could just get it over the tipping point, and venture capital is like the steroid to get you there. When it works out, it's beautiful, it's just amazing.
Totally.
But the reality is it's it's a bad bet for most entrepreneurs along the same dynamics of going to Hollywood and trying to be the next like Brad Pitt or something. Like your
Yeah.
chances of success when raising a lot of venture capital is 1 in 10 at best, and maybe less than that. You look at like Y Combinator. I mean, these guys have minted, you, you know, DoorDash, Airbnb, Dropbox, Reddit, Stripe. Like these are huge companies. There's probably like 20 names, 30 names that are household names that accelerator has helped birth to life. But what you don't understand is there's like also 3,000 other companies that went through that program. So like there's 3,000 names. This is the NFL, and
Yeah,
only
the
like
1%.
only
Yeah.
less than 50. Even call it 100. Even if there are 100 names that made it, it's it's 1-2%, and that's the
Yeah.
highest level. That's the NFL. Like not
Yeah.
every like only 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 even get into Y Combinator.
Yeah.
So my point is like when you go down that path, it's very much like I'm from Nashville. It's very much like somebody coming to Nashville and wanting to break into country music. It's an outlier. It's a 1 in 1,000 thing, and if you're signing up for that, that's fine. But you need to understand that.
Yeah, totally. Crazy,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah. So you were saying that you want to expand into more states because are you across the US right now?
I think
Yeah,
you said more countries.
Yeah, we're in every major city,
Okay, gotcha.
every
Sorry.
major market in
Yeah.
the United States. But there's smaller cities, and there's cities with 50,000 people or less, and those are the ones we're kind of
Yeah.
installing the platform in now. And
Gotcha.
and
And then,
for us, we can drive a lot of transactions out of a city like Knoxville, Tennessee, or Wichita, Kansas, and it counterintuitively, like those smaller towns are easier to get the flywheel going, and we can have more
Oh,
meaningful impact. And so, yeah, those are like our bread and butter.
gotcha.
interesting. Huh.
So
Yeah, I guess there'd
do
be
you
less competition for those keywords.
That's right.
And then the
Yeah,
providers are there. So that
That's
makes
right.
sense.
That's right.
Ah, I love it, bro.
that's very cool. So can you kind of give your growth plan and how you want to expand more? And also you were talking about getting into other countries too, and what your steps are to do that?
Yeah. So I'm a big believer in not trying to fix what's not working, just doing better at what already is working. And so,
Mm,
like I mentioned before, there's a million ways we try to market this platform. We can make
Yeah.
TikTok videos if we wanted to, like it'd be all
yeah.
kind of stuff. But
Those would
really,
be
man,
funny, I'm sure.
yeah, right. But really, it's just more along the lines of doing more of what's already working. We still like, even though we're a big player in SEO for this niche, we still have probably 10 times more to go in terms of traffic we can generate out of that channel. So it's just reinvesting in that one channel, getting our authority up to where we rank better, and then doing other things like PR. PR is a big channel for us too. My co-founder, that's
Interesting.
all he does is PR, and doing more of that, and then making the product even more reliable, even more fast, even more cheaper, making it
Yeah.
faster, cheaper, better, like to get this thing done. Like quotes come in quicker, the guy or gal you hire shows up sooner, and they do it even at a better price. And so like
Yeah.
getting that flywheel to turn quicker is what we're focused on, what we'll be working on for the foreseeable future.
I kind of want to touch on PR for a second, man. Like, do you guys just do press releases or kind of like how do you guys incorporate PR into your marketing strategy?
Yeah, so PR funnels back into SEO, because a lot of times, Google is measuring things like, okay, have you been on the Wall Street Journal? Have you been on
Yeah.
the Sacramento Bee, the Kansas City Star, the St. Louis Riverfront Times, the Miami Herald? Like if you've been in these publications, with a link or even no link,
Yeah.
like Google measures that, understands that, and like weights that to the authority of that property, and that's how you can compete for search terms. And
Yeah.
so the PR funnels into the SEO strategy, but it also can move people on a local level to the platform. So if you're on the Kansas City Star, or if you're on like the Fox affiliate in Kansas City, and like all those things happen, and like people in Kansas City see this, like, oh wow, I'm gonna try this out, and like before you know it, 3,000 people in Kansas City have signed up for GreenPal, and so
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the PR is a big lever that we pull, that we invest a lot of time in. To your question, we haven't had any luck with press releases. Those have largely just been a waste of money and time for us. For us, the way we execute is, we have one co-founder on the team. That's all he does, is
Hmm.
reaches out to 100 journalists a day and pitches them a story with a good angle, and
Interesting.
tries to get
Could
them
you give me a good angle on like a grass cutting app? Because like
yes.
I'd
So
just be curious to know what that sounds like.
So for the longest time, it was, hey, we're coming to town. the Uber for lawn care is coming to Wichita, Kansas. Do you
Yeah.
want to talk about it? If not, we're going to go to the ABC affiliate. And so pitching them on that. But then as time goes on, you got to create stories like, hey, in Atlanta, here's a story about a minority-owned business that has tripled their business in the first year, and it's a feel-good story, and they've got their house out of foreclosure. Would you like to write about it? And then we'll go to Atlanta and we will do an interview with them and the service provider in studio or in somebody's yard, and they'll talk about GreenPal. And the
That's
whole thing
amazing.
all in is probably like 10 grand to pull that off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not something you can scale. It's not something you can really outsource. It's just got to be something you're doing in house.
Just a
And
grind. Worth it
it's a
though.
grind. It's a total grind. It might be the biggest slog there is. If you talk to anybody who's done PR, they'll tell you how not fun
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, unreal. It's funny. I was talking to a guy and he said, I forget how it worked exactly, but there was like this kid, and I guess, or there's some dude who was stashing cash around town, and then he was like releasing that on social media. He was like giving people like hints and stuff,
Yeah,
and then
that's awesome.
CNN picked it up, and
Right.
apparently like the link juice from that alone just shot their site way up in the rankings. So it is like, at least from how PR relates to SEO, it's like being newsworthy, being worthy about being talked about. And it sounds like you guys have done a good job of figuring that out.
Yeah, and like the only secret sauce is just hustle and
Creativity.
consistency. Yeah, and just somebody who's willing to put in the work on that is the only reason why we've been able to make it work over the last 8 years.
Interesting. Man, I almost want to hire like a PR person just with mess with this idea. I love it, dude.
Yeah, if you do hire a PR person, have that like experimentation mentality in place, because it's largely probably going to be, it's going to be it's going to be a bet you're going to make that's going to go to zero.
Yeah,
we we have
yeah.
we have
We'll cut
we
it off
have
90 days.
tried like hell over the last 5 years to bring good freelancers and outsource people onto the team to help us with our PR, and we just cannot figure out a way to make it work.
Hmm.
At any dollar amount. Like, I think journalists are hit with like 500 pitches a day, and if yours is not like authentic from the founder, different, unique, I just like, this doesn't have any chance. And even at that, it's like, my co-founder is emailing 100 of them a day, and he shoots for one hit a week. So
Yeah.
it's
Crazy.
very much a numbers game. It's hard. I
Yeah.
don't
Damn.
know of a way to
Good for
outsource
him,
it.
though.
I'm sure there is a way to outsource it, but we haven't figured it out.
Interesting.
What, if you don't mind touching back, I love this SEO thing, and it's something I'm going through, so I'm super curious about it. How would you go about like hiring an SEO company to do your SEO or support you guys in that?
I would, if you're going to hire, the first thing I would do is I would take it as far as I could myself personally. So like I would
Mm.
take 6 months and like pour over every blog, every YouTube channel, every like Bryan Dean's got a really good YouTube channel. Maz has got a real good YouTube channel.
I
SEM
heard
Rush
him
has got
on.
SEM Rush is another one. Like Ahrefs is another one. I would like watch and read everything that those guys have ever put out, and I would learn as much as I could, and I would execute as much as I could first.
Mm.
And then after 6 months or a year of that, then I would go and hire and look for a good agency to work with on one segment of it. Not like, because SEO is combined of like content, the technical aspect of it, outreach, backlinks, and then about like 5 other things that aren't as important as those. And so like
Hmm.
I would hire an SEO agency to help with one of those. So like somebody to help with the content creation, or somebody to help with the technical aspect of it, or somebody to help with the outreach around earning backlinks. And because no SEO agency is good at all those things. And so it's like I'm sitting here telling you all this, and you could easily see how you could piss away 10 or
Yeah.
or
Tons of
50
money.
grand, not knowing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so that's how I would approach it, like if I woke up in your shoes.
Interesting.
Interesting.
I
That's
think
cool.
that's good advice, man. Get a good handle on what you're doing first, then bring on the
Yeah.
right people for it.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're kind of shooting from the hip. You don't really know what you're hiring for, and you don't know if they're doing a good job or not. They could be
Yeah.
doing a great job, and then you fire them, and then you hire somebody who sucks, or vice versa. You don't know. You just really don't know until you get some sort of like the Pareto principle, 80-20,
Yeah.
like you got to get 80-20 good at SEO before you even dream about delegating it.
Makes sense.
Smart. That's like
Damn,
most
dude.
things. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like most things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like most things.
Yeah.
So if we have some listeners that are wanting to start an app or thinking about going that route, what advice would you give them?
Well, if you're starting an app or you're starting a website, you are most likely inventing something from scratch that does not yet exist. So there's a big difference between, my first business was a landscaping company, and then building the Uber for landscaping. Like one is a kind of a known set of things that you have to do, and you execute, and you can kind of like model after other people who've been successful at it. And the other is like
Mhm.
inventing something from scratch that does not yet exist. So like don't under index on that. It's really, really hard to invent something from scratch that does not exist. And you've got all these assumptions in your head, and you don't know you don't know which are valid and which are invalid. And the only way you can like get out there and start testing these assumptions is to get something in the hands of users and
Mhm.
start like talking to them and embarking on what they call customer discovery. And I would read the book. I would read every book that Steve Blank's ever written. Four Keys, Four Steps to the Epiphany, and the Startup Owner's Manual. Those are good books
Nice.
about how to like go on the journey of customer discovery. Because like if you're starting an app and you're inventing something from scratch, you kind of have to like figure out what people's pain points are and what they're willing to pay
Mhm.
for.
Mhm.
This second piece of advice I would give is like it really kind of like helps to be solving your own problem. I was listening to um, the founder CEO of a company called Slice the other day, and this is like an operating OS and delivery network for small independent pizzerias. And
Mm.
this
Oh,
dude like
cool.
spent his whole life operating his own pizzeria, and his family did, and so he knew the pizza business. And like
Yeah.
I think that can really be helpful. I think like, if you want to create the Uber for massages, I think it can probably behoove you to spend a year working at Massage Envy and really
Yeah.
Mhm.
understanding the dynamics of how that business works before you try to start an app for that business.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with two separate, uh, like, points of complication, like the technology piece of it and like the business piece of it. You kind of need to like be able to nail one of those. And if you don't know either of them, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really
Yeah. That
hard.
makes sense.
Yeah, that's true.
I kind of want to ask a bit of a personal question, just as far as like, you've done some really cool shit, man. You built up your first company at 10 million, sold it. You got this one to 20 million. Do you have any like daily habits or like routines that you kind of stick to make you like keep going? Because you mentioned this current business, it was a battle. It wasn't just something easy. And
Yeah.
it sounded like it took some time to get profitable, man. Like not a lot of people are cut for that. Is there anything you do to kind of keep yourself in check or keep yourself going?
Yeah. For me, it's the psychology of it is I'm always going to be working on my best idea, no matter what. So
Hmm.
that's just the default. Like quitting is not an option. Not working on anything is not an option. Not having a project, not having a startup, not having a company is not an option. So I'm always going to be working on my best idea. I guess for me, fortunately, I'm not terribly creative. So like GreenPal is like my best idea has been for almost a decade now. And so like default working on this. So no matter how much
Hmm.
it sucks, no matter how much it's not working, I'm always going to be working on it. And so that's one thing that kind of got me and my team, through the hard early years. The other thing is like just really trying to focus on one or two things at a time and not even worrying about anything else, like almost looking
Mm.
at like the business as a video game, and like 10 levels of Super Mario World, and you just got to get through one level at a time. You don't need to worry
Hmm.
about anything else. So it's like level one, let's just get through it. We'll throw up the flag, whatever that is, 10K a month in revenue, $1,000 a month in revenue. Just get through that level and then worry about level two. It's like people, are on level one or level two, and they're worried about Bowser when Bowser doesn't matter. And so it's like really just focusing on one level at a time. And then the third thing I would point out that's helped me, and it could help new entrepreneurs, is really trying to go down the long tail of mentors that are like have done what it is you're trying to do.
Mm.
And when I say mentor, it doesn't mean like hitting somebody up on LinkedIn and saying, "Hey, I want to pick your brain." It means like figuring out the people that are that are doing podcasts like this one, or doing YouTube interviews, or like a conference on YouTube or whatever, and like really like going down and niching down on those people who you've never heard of, but they're like doing what it is you're trying to do. And so for me, like, some dudes I follow who nobody's ever heard of, like there's a dude named Casey Winters, and this dude was the first SEO lead that Grubhub ever hired. And you would not know the name Grubhub had it not been for this dude.
Interesting.
Dude by the name of Andrew Chen, who was a growth hacker at Uber. And
Yeah.
so that's just 2 out of like 50 people who I follow all of their stuff. And these are like really long tail, like, in like the world where I'm living, they're well-known names, but like at like a mainstream level, you never heard of these dudes. They're not Tony Robbins, they're not Gary Vaynerchuk, they're not Grant Cardone. Not that there's anything wrong with those guys, but like if you're trying to start the Uber for massages, Grant Cardone can't help you. Like you need the person who has started a local marketplace, who what they're talking about and their growth hacks and their product design philosophy. So like really going long tail and
I love
trying
that,
to
dude.
figure out who's talking about the stuff that you need to learn, and just soaking it all up.
Yeah.
Getting resourceful. I feel like I get messages all the time. Can I pick your brain and stuff? But and usually they're asking a question that's out on
anybody listening to this. Do never say, "Can I pick your brain?" to anyone ever.
Yes. Or don't DM me and say, "Hey," because I will just delete your shit.
Yeah, and it's not like that I'm some guru or anything, but like we're all busy, and it's like, like if you hit somebody up, and this goes for me as well, like be specific, like, hey, I am working on this thing. I have this many customers. We're doing this much of revenue. I see you're also working on a similar thing. I would love to share with you how we launched this market, and this thing, and it's kind of compare notes. Like that's how you approach somebody. Not, hey, can I get an hour of your time to pick your brain? Like, no, like don't.
Yeah. Dude, what you said is such, like, if someone hit me up about anything, like it's a more interesting conversation. Yeah,
for sure.
I got something to learn too. It's beneficial.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I hope that everyone listening to this podcast hears that part.
We've all been
tell
guilty
Reeves
of this.
to cut that section.
We've all been.
We're gonna use that part as an ad for this podcast. No, it gets a lot, but yeah, fuck, that's cool, man. That's really cool.
That's cool, dude.
To talk on your point about just to go back a little bit to talk on your point about finding mentors is you got to get resourceful. You got to dig in. You got to really find those people, because once you do, they're gonna have a more direct message to what you need.
Right.
So.
Yeah, especially pointed like that. Like think about if like Brendan never hit you up to learn how to run Facebook ads. Yeah, like a night and day difference in his life. You know what I mean?
100%, man. Making that kid rich.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Tony Robbins quotes is, "If you make other people successful, you'll be successful." And so, Tony Robbins, great guy to follow, but that's high level stuff. You need if you're running Facebook ads, you need the nerdy dude who's on YouTube, who's just like got the screen share while he's in his Facebook account and he's showing you how he's optimizing it. Like as boring as that is, like you got to turn off Netflix, and that has to be on your 50-inch flat screen at 7:00 at night, and not Netflix. Like
for sure,
that's what it takes to get good, like tactically at this stuff. Like it's
man, I agree.
Man.
I feel like you can turn anything into a game though, right? Because like in the beginning, learning ads is boring, but then once you start figuring out, it's just like you're just playing a digital game with money. It's fun.
Yeah,
totally. So,
yeah, exactly. And it's fun to win.
Yeah, winning's the best part.
Talking about that for a second, and especially helping other people win, what are some like success stories of people who, they had their own, like maybe their own landscaping company, they're struggling, then they started using your app? Do you have any that like come to mind?
Absolutely, man. We have a Facebook group that we invite these service providers into and kind of share these stories and also best practices and stuff on how to grow your business on top of GreenPal. And we've got hundreds of these stories. One guy that got laid off from a truck driver, and he started his lawn mowing business from scratch on GreenPal. First year, he was doing like $100K in take home revenue, like making more money doing that, working less hours than he was as a truck driver.
And that truck driving life's hard, man.
Oh,
You're on the road all day, every day. Like
best thing that ever
happened. Especially if you have a
family,
bro. Unreal.
Yeah. And it's like did our app make him successful? No, our app just gave him the opportunity to work really hard and like eliminate a lot of the BS that's kind of mysterious to somebody who's never had a
Yeah.
business,
Mhm.
and tee them
I
up
love
for
that.
success. And so that's a lot of
Hmm.
fun. It's why we do what we do. And those stories roll in all the time. Like there's another lady in Atlanta, that single mom, uh, just started push mowing yards in Atlanta herself, and has been on the GreenPal app for like 5 years, and now she has like 12 employees and three crews going at her every day, and
Jeez, good
she's
Wow.
for
the
her,
manager.
man.
Yeah, it's awesome. Name of her business is Cuts Like a Girl, and so that's a lot of fun. Yeah,
I
That's
love that.
really
Who is
cool.
this
yeah,
woman?
that was amazing. It's
Badass.
amazing. Yeah, it's badass, man. So it's a lot of fun. It's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
Why do
Very cool,
landscaping
man.
companies always have the wittiest names?
They do. There's some funny
Man,
ones.
yeah, there's some funny ones. Even here, there's ones too, and I forget. I always see it driving around. I laugh every time. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But they have, yeah, landscapers must be funny fucking people, man, because
Well,
they come up with some
and
good shit.
there's something about the lawn mowing business. It's approachable. It's easy to get into. The barriers to entry are
Yeah,
Mhm.
pretty low, and it's a great way for anybody to cut their teeth on what it is to own a business.
No doubt.
yeah,
You can go into lawn mowing for just a year and really learn things like customer service, marketing, customer retention, like just organization, minor bookkeeping, all these things that are like table stakes for any business. I get a lot of people that, I do some free coaching and for people in Nashville as a hobby. And I just get a lot of people that have this huge 8-figure idea and that they want to start. And they like, the only thing that's stopping me is like, I can't get capital. And it's like, bro, you've never ran a business. Like nobody's going to like, you gotta like,
yeah,
you gotta like cut your teeth on
Earn your
something.
stripes. Yeah.
And so it's like the
yeah.
lawn mowing business is a great way to do that. I think what holds a lot of people back is they don't want to be seen at the bottom.
Mm.
And so, if you just are willing to do a year of a home cleaning business, lawn mowing
Yeah,
business, pressure washing business, roof repair business,
yeah,
whatever, and it's no, I'm going to do this for 2 or 3 years until I get some little bit of cash put back and kind of, cut my teeth on this. And then I'm going to go after this big idea. Like, that's kind of like the progression of things, but
yeah.
Mm.
And if you don't, then you just don't want it bad enough.
you don't,
Yeah,
you just don't.
the
What
simple answer.
for the people you coach, what do you think is like if you could say the special sauce, if you can even identify that from the guys that like take off, do extremely well, kill it, to the people that kind of like struggle along?
I think it's like a fire in your belly to just want to make something of yourself. I think,
Hmm.
and that, I can resonate with that as well. I think like the first 5 years of business for me, like I had a chip on my shoulder, and maybe it's because like the bully in high school like used to pick on me, and like I really
Yeah,
wanted to prove that I could make something of myself,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
business was
yeah,
the thing that I was going to do it with. And I think a lot of people that are successful in business just have that unrelenting, like that relentless like fire in their belly to make it and figure it out. And that's like 80-90% of the success in most any business is just staying in there and just learning from what doesn't work and just
Totally.
rinse and repeat, and not willing to like give up and go back to the cubicle that you spent 5 years in. And I think that's the
yeah,
common denominator, is like that just willingness to hustle and grind and then learn too. Like read the books, watch the videos, watch the
Yeah.
conferences on YouTube, listen to the podcasts. Like that relentlessness is like the thing that you don't see very often, but it's the thing that like I see. Like I coach a guy that runs a HVAC business. He's kicking ass, and like he's just got that. He's got the 7 days a week, and it's not like working 7 days a week just for the sake of doing that. It's like working smart too. It's working on the
Hmm.
business, not just in the business.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that I see that is the common denominator for successful business owners.
No, I could see that.
smart.
We've brought on this business coach from time to time. Every time we've reached a new pillar of growth, and we're finding our feet a little bit, because like one thing I found is every time we've doubled, we've had to change how we operate. Like, now we have management under management now, and we've trying to break up the team a little bit more so it's a little more focused, etc. But I remember one time we had one guy, and he was like really good at what he did, but he struggled with motivation. And I asked the consultant, I'm like, hey man, how do you motivate a guy like this? And he's like, you find a new guy. He's like, there's too many motivated people out there to waste your time on a guy who has no motivation. It's like, you're just gonna kill yourself. He's like, there's just no win there, no matter how much you like him. Like either he's got to get on board or he's got to go somewhere else. And I really thought there's a lot of belief in that. It kind of matches what you're saying now. It talks about that fire inside of you. So I love that, man.
Yeah, I think that, we've got 20 something people here on this business. I had 150 on the last. One thing that I've seen is that you cannot motivate an unmotivated person, no matter what you do. All you can do is bring on motivated people and just don't demotivate them. And so that's what you're optimizing for, is you're optimizing somebody that has that ambition, that just has that grind, has that work ethic, and then teaching them your system, I think is better than somebody who's got 20 years experience or 10 years experience, and they've probably just repeated the same year 10 times.
Yeah.
It goes back to my
companies.
Goes back to my other, I guess, belief is that, until you get that rock star in there, you're better off outsourcing to somebody for 2 or 3 hours a month who's really good than suffering that person who's kind of half-assed for 30, 40 hours a week.
Yeah, no doubt. That's cool, man. Is there anything you guys do internally to keep your team on hyperdrive or keep them motivated or keep that energy at least?
Yeah. So one thing we do is we manage with our why. We really try to get everybody on board for why the hell it is what we're doing. So that is to, like I was talking about, these feel good stories in terms of lending these opportunities to people who might be marginalized, who don't have access to the American dream, who don't have access to starting their own business. That's why we do what we do. And then getting people to buy into that. And if they don't, then there may not be a good fit for our team. But if they do, they understand what am I doing? Why does it matter? And if you can answer those two questions, then it maps back to the why. That's something that as time has gone on is been something that's made it almost easy. If you can really get people to buy into that, and then just beating that into everybody's heads into the all hands meetings that we have every week. Now it's a little hard because it's all digital, it's all remote, but that constantly coming back to the why is how we've not had to worry about okay, is so-and-so at their screen for 8 hours a day, and then really managing back to whatever the output is. If you're managing people, you need to be focused on what the output metrics are and what the input metrics are. And so if it's somebody who's doing outreach for PR, the output metric is 1 hit a week. Well, what is the input metric? It's 100 pitches a day. And so managing both those, understanding okay, they're doing their 100 pitches a day and they're also getting their 1 hit a week, identifying what those input metrics are that map to the output metric, at a practical level is how we operate.
That's cool. I have a question for you. It just came to mind. Is there ever a person that you that you fired that you kind of regret that you fired them?
Never.
It's funny, man. If anything, I wish I would have fired them earlier.
Yes, it's always that way.
Yeah.
It's never not that way. It's you always hang on to them too long. And
totally.
And, the Mark Zuckerberg quote, we hire fast and fire faster, you've got to do that. And I'm so guilty of it too. We don't want to prune them out of the organization because there's sunk costs. There's this sunk cost fallacy that's psychological in our brains. And it's always that way. You always hold on to them too long and you think that you're doing them a favor and you're not. You need to help them by helping them move along and get on board somewhere where they are a good fit. And the other thing too that's really scary is just from leadership 101, that's the poorest leadership decision you can make, is hanging on to somebody who's just not a good fit for the team, because it's not fair to every single other person on the team. So it's a weak decision for you as a CEO. It's a weak decision for the team member who's not a good fit. And it's also a weak decision for everybody else who's not on the team, who's on the team. It's a weak decision for them too. You're doing a disservice to everybody.
Yeah.
Shit.
No, I agree with that. That makes sense, man. I love that.
Now I'm just trying to think who Tyler's going to hire or fire.
Maybe it's you.
You never know. If only he was my boss.
My co-host who's always on time while I'm late.
Yeah. I hold this shit together.
No doubt. It's actually interesting. There's I don't know if this is true or not, but there's a billionaire in Vancouver, Canada, where me and Gabe pretty much both grew up. He owns a ton of shit, Jim Passon. And I don't even know if this is true, but he owns grocery stores and car dealerships and stuff like that. And there's a story that once a month he would always fire the lowest performing salesperson at the
Yeah, I
car
like
dealership.
that.
Yeah.
I like
And he
that.
said, as hard as it was, that there's people that would come back to him years later in life and be like, dude, I'm so glad you fired me. He's like, could you imagine if I still worked here? He's like, I wouldn't have been able to go do this amazing thing in my life that I'm actually good at, as
Yeah.
opposed to trying to sell cars for you. And, you know, there's some guys that are killer salespeople, but it's not always the case.
Yeah.
I think that's smart. It's like that Jack Welch mentality of just cutting the bottom 10% every month, no matter what. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what like the military
Damn,
does.
I didn't know that was a Welch thing. Hey.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, I grew up.
You want to tell people who a Welch are real quick if they're not familiar?
You know, he was the turnaround artist for GE, GE back in the 80s and 90s, and one of the greatest CEOs in history.
Yeah.
And his thing was, you know, we only want to be the best in whatever we're doing. If we're not, we're gonna dissolve it. And then also, it was his other philosophy was, you know, we measure everybody, and the bottom 10 are gone every, you know, quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of elevated the you know, the inner spirit of competition in the business, and you know, the A players, they want to be around A players, and
Mm-hmm.
so you know, if you can make that work in your business, if you have the scale, you know, if you're 5 people, that's not going to work, but if you're 100, it could.
Yeah,
You know, like,
yeah.
but you better damn well have a good training system to complement that, to be able to bring new people on and get them on to whatever it is your system is. You know, don't do that without the recruitment and training in place.
No doubt.
Shit.
Damn, dude. I love it. This has been great, man.
Hey, I enjoyed it.
I think it's being a fresh mix for our audience too, man, because there's just so much more wisdom about, you know, running a business and stuff than just like the tactical stuff that sometimes we focus on.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, there's no one way to success. There's no, you know, these are just my stories, my experience, and how I've done it and how I'm continuing to do it, you know, and if any of it helps any of the listeners, you know, I hope so.
No doubt.
I think there's a lot of helpful stuff in here, man. Like you hit on a lot of good points. I'm grateful for that.
If someone lives in Nashville, and because I know you mentioned you do some mentoring and stuff like that, is that something you kind of do publicly, or how does that work?
Yeah. So, you know, I do some ongoing coaching, you know, for business owners, guys and gals in Middle Tennessee. So anybody that's listening to this, hit me up on LinkedIn and we can get connected up.
Cool. And if anyone wants to find your business and start using your app, what's the best way for them to do it?
Life's too short to cut your own grass. If you live in the United States, just download GreenPal in the App Store or Play Store, and you'll get hooked up with a great lawn mowing service in less than a minute.
Dope. We'll add a link below to make it easy for everybody and to help with those SEO backlinks, you know, just
right on. I appreciate that. Every little bit
full
helps.
spectrum. Yeah. All right. Thank you for everyone listening today. For everyone watching, please do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube. And for everyone listening, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. Yes. Thank you again. Really appreciate your time, Bryan.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right. See you on the next one. Bye.